Hey guys, Devin from Decon here, and with school just around the corner, I wanted to do a back to school centric video where I recommend 3 laptops for students for this upcoming year. Now, as I kind of compiled a list of laptops and began to develop the video, I noticed an unnerving trend, and that was all 3 laptops that I was recommending were horribly expensive. So this made me take a step back and rethink things for a second. Chances are if you're a student entering junior high, high school, or college, you probably don't have $1,000 to allocate toward a new laptop. Hell, you may not even have $500. $500 is a lot of money. I mean, this could be rent for some people, it could be a couple weeks of groceries for others. Hell, that could be an expensive textbook for this fall semester. With that being said, I kind of shifted my focus and decided to find 3 laptops under $300 that was brand new and also capable of doing general computer work. And on top of that, they all 3 must have Windows 10. I don't want none of that Chromebook OS crap. And these are the 3 that I found, with the first one being an Ideapad from Lenovo, the second one being a VivoBook from Asus, and last but certainly not least, we have a Spin from Acer. Okay, let's cover these specs, performance, and ports real quick. All 3 laptops are running dual-core processors, but all 3 laptops are also using a different chip. Lenovo is using an AMD's A9 chip, whereas Asus is using an AMD's E2 chip, and Acer is using an Intel Celeron chip. In terms of processing power, the single-core performance in both the AMD A9 chip and Intel Celeron chip is both very good, but the AMD E2 chip found in the Asus VivoBook is a bit on the lackluster side. In terms of multi-core performance, all 3 laptops are exceptional. Now, even though I said the multi-core performance is exceptional, I still wouldn't recommend any of these laptops for any kind of professional work. You may get away with some light photo editing, but I wouldn't go any further than that. The graphical capabilities and the processing power of these laptops just aren't up to snuff, and that should be expected at this price point. Now let's continue further with the spec sheet real quick. All 3 laptops have 4GB of DDR4 RAM, as well as a solid-state drive built in. As mentioned before, all 3 laptops comes with Windows 10, and they also have nearly identical ports, as each laptop has a proprietary charging port, 2 USB Type-A ports, an HDMI port, and also a headphone jack. And each laptop has some unique differentiating features as well, as the larger Lenovo Ideapad has a built-in CD/DVD drive. Meanwhile, the Asus VivoBook is the only laptop of the bunch to have USB Type-C included. The Acer Spin also has a unique feature that separates it from the other 2 as well, but I'll cover that in a bit more detail in just a second. First, let's cover the display and speaker capabilities of each laptop. First is the Lenovo Ideapad, which has the largest display of the bunch as it has a 15.6-inch LCD display, and it's also the only screen that has a matte coating. While the Asus VivoBook has a 14-inch LCD display, and this display has a glossy coating. And lastly, the Acer Spin has an 11-inch LCD display, which also has a glossy coating, and it's also the only display of the bunch that has a built-in touchscreen. And despite the 3 varying sizes, all 3 displays have a 1366 by 768 resolution. And despite the lower resolution, you're still technically getting a high definition panel here. And the lower pixel density on the larger 14-inch VivoBook and 15.6-inch Ideapad begin to become a problem as they begin to show individual pixels, and overall it just doesn't look as sharp as the smaller 11-inch Acer Spin. Viewing angles are also pretty terrible across the board. If you're looking at one of the displays dead center, the image it produces is actually pretty good. Colors appear accurate and backlighting is nice and even, but once you veer off center just a little bit, colors become washed out immediately. The glossy coating on both the Asus VivoBook and Acer Spin produce unwanted reflections and can become an annoyance if you have a lot of light sources nearby. Color accuracy across all 3 panels is fairly poor and horribly inaccurate, as the sRGB color accuracy never got higher than 60%, and both NTSC and Adobe RGB never got higher than 45%. The speakers on Lenovo's Ideapad are located on the bottom, and overall I think they sound pretty good. It gets plenty loud and can fill a small room without any problems. And in terms of sound quality, highs and lows are nowhere to be found, but that's to be expected with most laptops, but you do get stereo separation here, which is a nice plus. The speakers on Asus's VivoBook is also located on the bottom, and they also come in a dual configuration, which means you get that nice stereo separation. And in terms of loudness, it's about the same as Lenovo's Ideapad, and it should fill a small room with ease. Acer's taken a different approach to their speakers as it's located underneath the hinge, and it fires upward rather than directly toward you. And the sound it produces is actually very poor. It comes out sounding rather tinny, and it doesn't get nearly as loud as the other two laptops. And Acer placed these speakers here for a reason. You remember that unique feature I was talking about 2 minutes earlier? Well, we're gonna talk about it right now. The Acer Spin is actually a 2-in-1 convertible laptop. This means it's able to be a traditional laptop and also convert into a tablet-like experience. And using this purely in tablet mode is an okay experience. Overall, for the most part, it works pretty well, as sometimes though it gets rather sluggish and sometimes it just doesn't respond to touch at all. And with this being a capacitive touchscreen, it doesn't work with all styluses like the Surface Pen. I tried connecting my Surface Pen to this device and it wouldn't respond at all. So if you're looking to do any kind of drawing or taking notes, you have to find the proper stylus for it. The keyboards in all three laptops are surprisingly great, and despite each one having a slightly different layout, they all feel relatively the same. With the Lenovo Ideapad's larger 15.6-inch frame, it's capable of having a full-size keyboard and a number pad as well. Overall, the typing experience is great as the keys are properly spaced out and they have a nice clicky feel to them. The number pad is also properly spaced out and isn't overly cramped like the 15.6-inch ZenBook I reviewed earlier this year. And key travel is excellent as well as it's nice and deep. The trackpad on the other hand is awful. It's using Elan drivers and overall feels very floaty, and many times while typing it was activated despite having the sensitivity setting at the very lowest setting. And when you rest your finger on it, there's a slight depression even though I'm not clicking on anything, and overall just feels very hollow. As much as I love the keyboard on the Ideapad, the keyboard on Asus's VivoBook is even better. Despite having a smaller 14-inch frame, Asus didn't really have room for a number pad, so they took that extra real estate and actually made the keys slightly larger and spread them out slightly more, and this provides for a better overall experience. There's a nice tactile feel to this keyboard as key travel is excellent as well as it's nice and deep. Thankfully the trackpad is excellent as it's using Windows Precision drivers, and overall it feels nice and smooth and it's highly accurate as well, and it was never activated while typing. Structurally it feels more sound than the Ideapad and it has a nice click to it. And lastly, the keyboard on the Acer Spin is excellent as well. Despite being the smallest of the bunch, we still have a full-size keyboard here, and it's properly spaced out as well. And despite the key travel not being as deep as the other two laptops, it still provides for an overall great typing experience. The trackpad on the Acer Spin is also using Windows Precision drivers, and it's great as well. However, unlike the keyboard, it's actually a victim of the size of the overall laptop, as it's easily the smallest trackpad of the bunch. The trackpad has an ever slightly textured feel to it. It also has a nice click to it as well. Battery life on Lenovo's Ideapad was poor as it was only able to get 3 hours and 1 minute at maximum brightness and 3 hours and 35 minutes at minimum brightness. And the Asus VivoBook didn't fare any better either, as I was able to get 3 hours and 35 minutes at maximum brightness and only 3 hours and 40 minutes at minimum brightness. The Acer Spin was much better than the other two, however, as I was able to get 7 hours and 2 minutes at maximum brightness and 7 hours and 25 minutes at minimum brightness. Considering the price point of all three laptops, I don't really have any negatives, merely just downsides, and these are downsides that come along with buying a $300 laptop. And these downsides include the overall design and build quality. Despite the top lid of each laptop having a different design, none of them are overly impressive, and overall they're just fairly bland. The bezels around each screen are very thick, which makes the overall footprint of the laptop that much larger. And the top case has some wicked keyboard flex as well. Another downside in all three laptops is the web camera, and it's awful. It outputs at a 480p resolution, and overall it just looks very, very bad. There's a lot of artifacting going on, and things just don't look very well defined, even when you're in a well-lit room. And lastly, I'd be remiss not to mention the storage issue with the Asus VivoBook. It only comes with 32GB of solid-state storage, and honestly this shouldn't be happening in 2019. I don't care what the price of the laptop is, you should not be including only 32GB of storage space. there should be at least 64 gigabytes. That way you can actually update Windows when you initially boot it up. Asus does provide a slight solution to this, however, as there is an extra hard drive slot on the bottom of the laptop, and it's easily accessible as you only have to remove one screw. But this isn't a valid solution, as if you're buying this laptop, you probably don't have a ton of money to begin with, and having to spend an extra $40 to $60 on a hard drive or solid state drive is just added cost that you shouldn't be having to deal with in the first place. But at the end of the day, all three of these laptops are pretty great considering their price point, and also considering their price point, they do have their limitations and drawbacks as well. You honestly shouldn't expect to do any kind of high performance professional work with these laptops because, well, they're just not capable of handling that. They are capable of handling your general kind of computing work, however, so if you're a student looking to buy this for watching Netflix or porn, no, I'm kidding, don't do that. If you're a student out there looking to buy this to do kind of general student work such as web browsing, email, using it for Microsoft applications, stuff of that like, then these laptops are going to handle that beautifully. Well, that's going to wrap up this video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please send me your likes. If you enjoy my content, send me your subs. And as always, thank you for stopping by. I'll see you next time.